Traveling with children can be way less stressful and very fulfilling if you're prepared. You have to be very strategic. In this video, I'm giving you the ultimate guide to traveling with children from ages 0 to toddler. By the end of this video, you will be prepared to be a master traveler. If you're new to my channel, my name is Gabrielle, and I am not some random influencer that traveled with her child once and is now making a video. I have been traveling with my kids since they were 3 months old, and I myself have been traveling for many years, also since I was a baby. I've been traveling on airplanes, international flights, and road trips since I was 3 months old. My parents were huge road trip fans, and now I have 10 years experience traveling with my kids. We live in the US, but my family's in Mexico, and we go there often. I usually like to make shorter videos, but this is everything you need to know to travel with your baby. I've checked out some other YouTube videos about tips for traveling with kids, but they're all missing something. So I'm trying to include everything that you need to know. So stay till the very end so you can be very well informed and prepared for a successful trip. This is going to be a long one, but I promise it's going to be worth your time. And if you stay until the end, I have a full checklist for you that you can download for free with all these tips. This guide will be divided by sections. These sections are: number 1, trip planning and preparation; number 2, create your checklist; number 3, the documents you will need to prepare in advance; number 4, the purchase of the airplane ticket if you're traveling by plane; number 5, choosing a hotel for your family; number 6, packing and recommendations; number 7, how you should dress while you're in transit; number 8, checking in at the airport; number 9, boarding and transit; and finally, number 10, what to do upon arrival and your stay in the destination. So let's get right into it. Planning for a trip with children can be a little stressful, but it makes your trip relaxing. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So just try to breathe. You'll find that most people are really nice when you're traveling with a kid, especially if you're traveling on your own. When I traveled for the first time with my 3-month-old, I found it quite surprising and very nice to see that people were so considerate of me and my baby. It actually relieved me of some of the karma I was expecting, because as a single woman, I was one of those people that did not want a kid sitting next to her or in the plane. The moment I was boarding a plane, I would hear a baby cry and I was like, oh no, expecting a bad flight ahead. So when it was my turn to travel with my 3-month-old, I was a little nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, karma, here you come. And I started getting all those stares and glares from people as I was entering the plane. And I'm like, yep, this is my karma. But then everybody was so nice. And luckily my kid was so good that I was blessed to be surrounded by people on the plane and during my whole trip that were really helpful and very considerate. And don't get me wrong, I was never mean when I flew as a single woman. I just didn't like hearing a baby in the background, but I was never mean. I did nothing wrong. That's probably why my karma wasn't that bad. All I got were the stares. When you're planning your trip, you have to consider longer times. If it's a road trip, you must plan on longer transit times because there will be several bathroom stops, whether it's to change a diaper or to just go potty. Also, sometimes you need to stretch your legs and the kids need to run around, or you have to stop to snack. On one of my trips, I had to stop because my baby wouldn't stop crying. He had enough of the car seat. So we had to stop and I had to breastfeed him and just snuggle for a bit until he finally fell asleep and then continued on our trip. And when my kids were older, I still had to stop every now and then at gas stations so they could stretch their legs, use the bathroom, and get a few snacks. So always plan on longer trip times. I recommend that you also plan around nap times. If your baby or child tends to take a nap at noon, plan on taking off at that time, and that way your child will sleep the rest of the way. Take into account that there will be child-appropriate activities in your destination. Some new parents forget that their kids need to have certain activities that are kid-friendly in the destination. Like if you're taking your kid and it's a toddler and you want to climb up a mountain during your trip, your toddler probably won't want to or will get tired halfway up the mountain. In Mexico, there's a really beautiful town called Tepoztlan where you can climb a mountain. It's a really long climb up, and I've seen many parents take their toddlers and don't make it even 1/3 of the way. And the parents are frustrated and there's a lot of crying and it just ruins the whole moment. So try and find child appropriate activities. And some of the activities that you're planning have to have the adequate duration. It's like when you want to take a kid to a movie, most kids won't sit 2 hours in a movie. Or if you're planning to take your child to basketball game or the Super Bowl, that's probably not a child appropriate activity depending on their age. So take into consideration the duration of the activity, if there's babysitting available. All this will make your life easier and you'll be able to enjoy your trip much better without so much stress. Also, when you're traveling with kids, try to have low expectations. Like I said, sometimes you think as a new parent that, oh, well, you're not taking my kid to a Super Bowl, and it doesn't work out. So try to have low expectations. Even if you plan kid-friendly activities, sometimes your kid is just not in the mood. So when you have low expectations and everything goes great, it feels very rewarding. That happened to me when I traveled with my 3-month-old for the first time. I had really low expectations. I thought it would be a mess, but it was actually really good. And then when I traveled with him as a 1.5-year-old that was bouncing all over the place, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to keep my kid on my lap still? And he was actually pretty good. He just stood on my lap and looked around and was just really curious, and we were really good, and there was no crying. So my expectations were low and the results were great. Also, forget about your strict schedules. If you're one of those moms that has like really strict 1 p.m. nap time and, oh, you can't use the iPad for more than 2 hours. Dear moms, when you're traveling, it's all about surviving. You're in survival mode, literally. So forget about screen time, forget about strict nap times, forget about all that. Just make sure your kid is happy, safe, well-fed, and you're good. When you arrive to your destination, or even when you come back home, you can go back to your usual routine, but for now, forget about schedules. When your kids are older to be walking around and get lost, one thing I recommend you do is to get the medical ID bracelets. I did that for my children because I was terrified of them walking off in an airport, even though I kept my eye on them all the time and I held their hands. Sometimes, as a mom, you're overwhelmed and it only takes a second to lose a child. It's very scary. So what I did is I got them these medical IDs. I put their names, my contact information, and even some health information you can add there. If your kid has an allergy, you can add that there. So that's a really good thing that you can do for when you're traveling. It's very important that you have a checklist for the next stages of planning your trip so that you don't forget anything that you will need. First of all, you have to make a checklist of all the documents that you will need. And we'll talk about which documents those are in the next section. When you're preparing the list of everything that you are going to take on your trip, divide them into two. If you're traveling by airplane, it would be the things that you would check in. Basically, that would go straight to the belly of the plane. Or in the case that you're traveling by car, then it would be the things that you would put in the trunk of the car and that you will not need to have handy during transit. And the other things would be the things that you would carry on with you during transit. Basically, the things that you would keep with you in the airplane or that you would keep in the front of the car. If you're traveling by plane, the things that you need to check in would be things that you don't need handy and things that are not allowed on the plane. For example, nail clippers are not allowed, scissors, razors, large bottles of fluid, all that needs to be checked in. Also, certain electronics can go there, like your hair dryer, your electric shaver. Those kind of things can go in the bags that you check in. It is not recommended that you put jewelry in the checked-in bags, nor laptops or iPads or anything that is too valuable. For the carry-on things, it would be everything that you need handy, that you will be using, and that you might need during the trip. For example, medications that you need to keep handy, an extra set of clothes, things that you would need if your luggage got lost, your makeup, some jackets for any change in temperature, because sometimes when you're traveling, it can get pretty chilly in the plane, or if it's raining in your destination or during transit, you might need an umbrella or a poncho. We'll talk about more of my recommendations in regards to what to take, but for now, make your list about what you wish to carry on. And yes, everything that you will need for your baby during transit. Also make a checklist for what you wish to bring inside your purse and contemplate if you really need to carry a purse. Sometimes you can just put everything in your carry-on bag and have it handy there, like a small makeup bag and a section for your documents in that carry-on bag too. Sometimes I do that because I don't want to have a purse with me. I just want to be able to pull my carry-on bag that has wheels, and then I don't have anything bothering my shoulder while I carry my baby or my kids. And in those cases, I usually take a purse in the checked-in bag. I put it at the bottom of my checked-in bag, and on top of it, I put all the clothes so that it's not so visible. That way, when I arrive to my destination, I can take out my everyday fancy purse and use that one there. If I don't want my phone, my purse, and my documents to be in the carry-on bag, what I do is I bring a crossbody. That way I keep my most important objects near to me and always keep them in the front. If you use a backpack and your things are in the back, during the trip, somebody could steal them without you even realizing it. So use a crossbody or something smaller to have everything handy and your hands free. And the night before you travel, double check your list to make sure you haven't forgotten any. Now let's talk about the documents that you will need in advance, especially if you're traveling solo with your child or if you're crossing borders. When you're planning your trip, if it's international, make sure that you have all your documents prepared and they are not expired before buying your airplane tickets, probably even months before you take your trip. Because if you discover that anything is expired or about to expire, you're going to need time to replace it. In some countries, it can take a lot of time to get a passport renewal. Some airlines and some countries require that your passports have at least 6 months validity to be accepted. If your child does not have a passport or it has expired, plan on requesting it. Here in the US, it's really easy to renew your passport or get a passport for your child. Both parents have to be present. Sometimes they take the picture there. You have to check the picture requirements for the passport. And you will need a picture of your infant. And yes, even a newborn will need a passport to travel. Some parents think that an infant won't need a passport to fly, but it's a person. They need a passport. Or in the case that you're traveling by car and you're planning on crossing borders in any way, you will need a passport. If your child has double nationality, plan on bringing both passports. My kids have double nationality. They were born in the US, so they're Americans, but they are also Mexican. So the way it functions is we usually travel with the American passport, enter Mexico with a Mexican passport, leave Mexico with a Mexican and American passport. They ask for both. And then enter the US with the American passport. So if your children have double nationality, you're going to need both at some point. I recommend you always bring some other kind of ID, like your driver's license. You will need that if you're renting a car and if you plan on driving in your destination. If you're traveling without the other parent of your child, you will need a notarized letter of consent to travel. There are many templates online that you can check. There are certain things that you have to mention in that document. Usually it is the permission to travel by the other parent, the information of the passport numbers and everything, date of birth, passport number. You have to provide the address of where you're going to stay. You have to mention how long you're going to be there and until when they're giving you permission to be out of the country, and it has to be notarized. Sometimes they don't ask for it, but if you don't have it, you could run into deep trouble. So it's very important to always have a notarized letter of consent to travel from the other parent of your child. Sometimes they also ask for a marriage certificate, and you're going to need a birth certificate. Usually they don't ask for that one, but I have been asked once for it. Sometimes they want to make sure that it is your child. The time that they asked for it in my case was because my boy was traveling on my lap, and he was so big that they wanted to make sure that he was actually under 2 years old. It's recommended to have a doctor's note to make sure that your child is safe to travel. This is usually required when an infant is under 6 months old. It is usually not recommended to travel with a child that is under 4 months old because they get exposed to so many germs on an airplane. And like I've said in other videos, a child that is under 1 year old, and especially a newborn, are very vulnerable to diseases. It is important to bring a doctor's note so that the airline allows you to take your child, and even some countries to allow you to bring your child into the country. The doctor's note will say that your child is healthy and safe to travel. Also, check the vaccination requirements of your destination and that all the vaccines for your children and for yourselves are up to date. Some countries ask for a vaccination record. I always keep it handy when I'm traveling. If you're taking medications or your children are taking medications, you need to have the prescription, because if they inspect your bags and find medication, they will ask for it. Most medications here in the US have the prescription on the bottle. It says your name on the bottle of your medication that you're taking or your kids are taking. But sometimes that's not the case. One day I made the mistake of condensing all my medications into one bottle. It was just vitamins, but I mixed them all up, put them in the same bottle just to not carry a bunch of bottles. And then upon arrival to Mexico, they're like, oh, I need the prescription for this. And I'm like, they're just vitamins. And they were like, well, we don't know that. All we see are pills. So you have to be very careful with that. I ended up losing all those vitamins and I'm like, but I was glad that I had the prescription for the important medications at least. Don't forget to bring the reservation information for hotels. Also bring a printed copy just in case. I hate carrying the printed copies. I usually just look at my phone. But one time upon arrival, my phone was dead and I couldn't consult it on the phone. And it took a while to look it up. And the last thing you want to do upon arrival when you're so tired is have them take ages to look up your reservation. So just keep a printed copy of your reservation. Also, if you're checking it in your phone, remember that upon arrival, you probably won't have internet, or the quality won't be the same. It could be super slow. You probably won't have access to your documents. So I recommend that you have a printed copy just in case. Now, let's talk about buying that airplane ticket. When you purchase an airplane ticket and you're planning on staying in a hotel, try to purchase a package. That's the best way to go. It will be way cheaper. Another thing I recommend is that you stay within the same airline. Other companies can get you really cheap flights to your destination, and they combine a bunch of different plane companies, and it makes it really, really cheap. The problem there is the connections. Since those airplanes are from different airlines, if one of the airplanes is delayed, the other company won't be at fault. So you might lose the next flight, and it's not their fault, and you're stuck. So always try to fly using the same airline the whole way to your destination. That way, if one of those planes on the way to your destination gets delayed, the airline will find you a new airplane to continue your trip. Sometimes they'll pay for your hotel, always ask, and sometimes they will even pay for your transport to the hotel and your meals. If you didn't know, kids under 2 years old travel free or at a discounted price if they travel with you on your lap. I totally took advantage of this. I traveled with both my kids until they were 2 with them on my lap. And yes, there is a disadvantage to that. You will have your kid jumping around on your lap if it's a toddler. As a newborn, it's not that bad, but as a toddler, it's really bad. Especially if you have a really squirmy little kid. That was my biggest fear of traveling with my kids when they were under 2 years old on my lap, that they would be standing up and jumping around and climbing all over the place. But actually, they were pretty good travelers. I was very surprised. They actually did stay on my lap. They would stand up and look around and stuff, but they were very, very well behaved, thank goodness. So take into account that. And if you absolutely don't want to deal with that, then you will absolutely need to get a different seat for them. One of the recommendations that I can give you is just bring a car seat into the plane, but you have to check that it is accepted by the airline, because some car seats won't be allowed inside the plane. And the advantage of keeping them in the car seat is that kids are actually used to their car seat. They know what to do in it. They know they have to just sit there and they nap and they're comfy and they won't be jumping all over the plane, especially when it comes to a 2-year-old or a toddler. they will just sit there. Sometimes it is worth to get an extra ticket. But if you are planning on traveling with your child on your lap, you will discover that you cannot book their ticket online. First, you have to purchase the tickets for you and your spouse and any other grown-ups or kids that are traveling with you that are not traveling on your lap. And after you make your reservation, you have to call the airline and ask them for your ticket. Give them a call and they will program that. And also plan on extra time at the airport on check-in when you do this. I also recommend that you do not buy tickets that have connections that are less than 2 hours long. You need to have at least a minimum of 2-hour layover, because when you're traveling with children, you will need to change diapers, you will need to feed them, you will need to take them to the bathroom. So that takes up a lot of time. And if you have a really tight connection, it's not going to work. It's going to be a nightmare for you. So plan on a minimum of 2 hours for each layover. Do not buy that ticket if it's not at least 2 hours layover. If it's an international airplane, choose your seats in the middle aisle. Some airplanes have one aisle here in the window, another aisle here in the window, and then one aisle here in the middle. Choose your seats there. That way, if you have to get up and do things, it'll be easier. This is especially good if you're traveling with 2 kids, because it's you, your kid, and the other person. And so you don't have to bother that person to get up. If you're traveling with somebody that's elderly or that needs extra assistance, or if you broke a foot or any kind of injury, call the airline and ask for wheelchair assistance. This is really helpful, especially for making connections, because making a connection with somebody that has trouble walking or that is elderly can be really tough. They can't run until the next gate. And the airline, when they give you wheelchair assistance, they will make the other plane wait for you. Literally, they will put you on the seat and take you to the next gate. And that way, your connection will be guaranteed. My grandmother learned this the hard way. She is this beautiful lady that's always all proud and just does not like to be treated as elderly. So one day she was offered the wheelchair and she said, no, I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm fine. I can walk. And then she suffered making a connection. When she got to the other gate, she was tired. Her feet hurt. And then she saw this lady come by comfortably in a wheelchair. And she's like, I should have asked for a wheelchair. So don't be too proud. If you need a wheelchair, ask for it. It'll help you make that connection comfortably, especially if you're traveling with the grandpas of your kids. The next recommendation is controversial. Some people say that it is better to travel at night with children. I disagree. I think traveling during the day is better for 2 reasons. Usually, morning flights have less turbulence, believe it or not. I know it from years and years of flying on a plane. I've flown to so many places, so many times, and it is my experience that afternoon to night flights have a lot of turbulence. I recommend that you travel on day or morning flights because A, you will have less turbulence, and B, your kids won't be so fussy. If you plan it wisely, if possible, they can nap during the flights. On the other hand, if you're traveling at night and there's connections of some kind and you arrive in the middle of the night to your destination, it's going to be a nightmare holding that child. Your child will be extremely tired. You'll have trouble waking them up to change flights or upon arrival. I do not recommend nighttime flights like some people say. And if you're counting on them sleeping at night during the flight, because it's nighttime and you're like, oh, they're super tired, they will sleep the whole flight, don't count on it. It might work, but most of the times, kids are not themselves when they're traveling on a plane. Everything's just too exciting, too stimulating, and they will not sleep all night. And you're going to be miserable because you will be tired too, and you will want to sleep, and you won't be able to. You won't be able to. And imagine arriving like that to your destination without a single moment of shut-eye during the night. That would be the worst. When booking your plane ticket, also make sure that you have taken care of the transport from the airport to your destination or your hotel and back. Some booking agencies like Expedia offer that service for you. at a discounted price, and sometimes the package that you purchase includes it. And finally, if you're opting for one of those cheap airplane companies, be careful. In Mexico, we have a saying, cheap stuff is expensive, because sometimes in an effort of buying things for cheap, you end up paying more. And it is my personal experience that some cheap airplane companies actually charge you for breathing. Literally, they will charge you for every little thing, even things that should be free. Like, for example, oh, you're bringing a purse, $10, and your carry-on, $35. And you want more extra space in your seat, $50. And you want to recline your seat, $20. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That happened to us in Europe. If you wanted a seat that reclined, you had to pay more. It's just ridiculous. They will even charge you to board the plane. Like I said, lo barato sale caro. You know, the cheap stuff ends up expensive. So just make sure you're making the right choice. There are some good cheap companies out there, but most of them, they're not really that cheap. Never believe car rental companies. Nowadays, it's usually pretty cheap to rent a car, but I don't know why they do this. They always trick you into thinking that it's going to be super cheap and that you won't be paying a lot. But then when you arrive to your destination, they just slam you with a bunch of insurance costs and, oh, you have to leave a deposit. And before you know it, you need $500 to thousands of dollars to be able to get that car. It's ridiculous. Some rental car companies actually do honor what they're promising. They said it's going to be this much, and then the deposit is like $20, and it's fabulous. And if you don't want to get the insurance, fine, don't get it. But most of the time, it's not that way. The last time I tried to rent a car, it was just so disappointing. I did not get the car. They literally basically wanted me to leave. I think it was like $3,000 deposit. I'm like, oh, I can go out and buy a car for that. This is so stupid. So don't rely on rental car companies. Try to plan on different means of transport in your destination. Here in the United States, it's not that much of an issue. Usually, most rental car companies do honor what they promise. But when you go abroad, it's not that way. Like in Canada, I saw some families that were stuck because they had no idea they were going to be asked for a really large deposit. I think they were asking them for $500 deposit to get their car. And these people did not have that space in the credit card. So they were super frustrated and didn't know what to do. Same thing happened to me in Mexico. I arrived to Mexico City Airport. I was going to get my car and they wanted a $3,000 deposit. I'm like, you're insane. Forget it. You know, luckily I have family there. I took an Uber, went to my family, and the rest of the trip I have to rely on my family. But what do you do if that was your plan? You won't have means of transport. And if you've arrived at midnight or something, you're going to be stranded with your child. And that's not a good situation to be in. So never believe cheap car rentals. The deposit and insurance could be ridiculous when you pick up the car. Okay, so you have your airplane tickets and now you are choosing the place to stay. If you're choosing a hotel, I recommend you follow these guidelines. If the hotel has a swimming pool, make sure that it has a kid-friendly pool. And by that, I mean a pool that fits the age of your child. If your child is a toddler, you usually will want a kiddie pool, one that is shallow enough for your child to walk around and just explore on his or her own. Of course, you have to be there at all times for your kid's safety. But I can tell you right now, you won't get any rest and your child will not enjoy the pool if it is just a normal pool that is too deep for kids, because you will have to carry your child all the time inside the pool. And if your child doesn't want to do that, and if you want to sit by the pool and just watch them play, you won't be able to. Of course, if it's a very young child, like a baby, then it doesn't matter because you're going to be carrying your child the whole time. For older toddlers and children, it is good to have an activity pool, which usually is a pool that has slides and that kind of stuff. But make sure that it is also appropriate for the age of your child so that your kid is safe. Some activity pools can look really nice in pictures, but then you find out that it's more for older kids. And if you have a toddler, they might end up hurt. Other people's kids could be running around and playing a little rough, and your toddler might get hurt. So always make sure that the activity pool that they have in that hotel is perfect for your child. Some hotels are really nice, like resorts that have different pools for different stages in life of a child. They have like the kiddie pool, toddler pool, and then they have the big kid pool. That is amazing. I love resorts that have that kind of accommodation, but it's not always possible. I usually choose a hotel based on that, also based on my comfort. And the restaurants, you have to take several things into account and write them down to choose the best option for you and your family. Your priorities are important. So I can't like say, oh, it has to have this and it has to have that. No, just make sure that it fits your needs, it fits your priorities, and that's going to be the winner for you. So not every family will consider a hotel the winner. Every family is different, so everyone's priorities are different. Just choose the one that accommodates your family's lifestyle. It is nice to have a resort shop, a little shop for last-minute essentials. For example, if you forgot to bring Tylenol, or you need more diapers, you need swim diapers, or you want some sand toys so that your kids can play in the beach. That's one other recommendation that I can give you. Try to not bring your own sand toys. It's usually better to just buy the ones at the hotel store. I know they can be a little expensive, but it's better to just buy them there, use them during your stay, and at the end of the trip, just give them to some other child for free. That is the best option so that you're not carrying a bunch of stuff. Plus, you don't want to carry all that sand home. And make sure that that resort shop is within walkable distance. If you're in a really, really big resort and you have to haul a bunch of kids or a toddler, or it's difficult to go up and down stairs and you're pushing a stroller, that can be a nightmare. So make sure that their resort shop is not too far away. So if you need anything last minute, you can get it easily. Also, when choosing a hotel, check what the babysitting status is. Some hotels and resorts offer babysit, and some of them offer it for free. They even have a whole daycare system, and it's included in your stay. Most hotels offer babysitting for a cost. Honestly, I never hired it. It was just way too much money, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving my kids with some random stranger in my hotel room. A hotel or a resort that actually has a special area dedicated for daycare, where the kids have activities and toys, and they're always supervised by certified babysitters. That is wonderful. I didn't discover that until later on in my kids' lives. When my daughter was like 4 and my son was 6, we found a resort that actually included daycare in their stay. It's a game changer. It's fabulous. And I'm one of those parents that does not travel without their children. I don't know. I can't do it. I ran into families that traveled without their children all the time, even when they were 3 months old. I can't. I just could never do that. But when my kids got older, it was nice to have some time for the kids to do stuff. The kids sometimes get bored of doing all the same things during a stay. Like, okay, I've had enough of the beach. I've had enough of the pool. Now what? And if you just want to get a little bit of rest, even for 1 hour, and sit by the pool with a book and just get some rest and just chill. Sometimes as a parent, you just need a breather. So when a hotel offers that, they already have babysitting included with a whole daycare system and activities, and the kids have a blast. It's a win-win. My kids loved going to the daycare at the hotel, and it was included in my stay. So if you're interested in that, ask around. Some resorts offer that. Another thing that you should consider when booking a hotel is asking for the complimentary crib service. Some hotels will offer a free pack and play or a crib during your stay, but make sure that it is available, because sometimes they say, yes, we do offer it, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to a destination and they're like, oh, they're all rented out. We can't give one to you right now. And then what do? This service is wonderful because you don't have to carry a pack and play with you. And this applies whether you're traveling by plane or if you're doing a road trip. You will want to have a crib or a pack and play for your child. If you're going on a road trip, I recommend that you carry your own. I usually like to carry my own pack and play because sometimes the pack and plays that they give you at hotels are kind of nasty. You know, they're kind of yucky and dirty. So I would arrive and I would wipe it down and everything to make sure that it was nice and clean for my child. But even then, it is not your own. So on road trips, I usually prefer to bring my own pack and play. For airplane travel, it travels on the airplane for free. You can check it in. So if you're like ultra picky and want to bring your own pack and play, you can. But it's better to just ask the hotel if they will give you a complimentary crib or pack and play. I almost forgot, you will need blankets, because sometimes the blankets that they give you for the pack and play are not the best. They're usually just normal hotel blankets and they won't do. So I usually try to bring a fitted sheet for any crib mattress or pack and play. And I bring my own warm blanket for my child that I usually use on their pack and play. The next recommendation might be obvious, but make sure it's a family-friendly hotel. If you're going to a hotel where usually spring breakers go and they have all these night shows and there's all this noise at the pool, you're not going to get any sleep because your child won't be able to sleep with all that music and noise and screaming and everything that's going on at the pool. So make sure that you have a family-friendly hotel, and this includes the beach. Make sure that the beach is friendly because some beaches have very strong currents and you won't be able to feel safe taking your toddler or your baby to soak in the ocean. So make sure that the ocean is nice and calm, that you can actually swim in it. And finally, check out the elevator situation at that hotel because some hotels do not have an elevator. And if your room is in a second or third or fourth floor and all they have is stairs and you're pushing a stroller, you will suffer. So in that case, you will need to get a first floor room so that you don't have to suffer going up and down stairs. But if they do have an elevator, then you can choose any floor. Don't forget to make sure that the location of the hotel accommodates your goals for that trip. If you won't have a car during your stay, then make sure that most things that you plan to visit are within walkable distance or that there is some form of transport. For example, in Cancun, it's really nice because there's a lot of super cheap public transport and some hotels are walkable distance from anything that you need, like restaurants and shops. So always check the location of your hotel to make sure that you will be within walkable distance of what you plan to visit and everything that you will need. And if not, you should consider renting a car. It sounds crazy, but I always pack at least 1 week before my trip. That way I'm not stressed. If you wait to pack until the night before, you will suffer, especially as a mom. Maybe as a single woman, you won't. But as a mom, you will suffer if you decide to pack the day before. Even if you start packing in the morning, it's going to be crazy stressful. You'll end up feeling like you forgot something. You won't sleep that night. You'll finish packing around midnight. It's the worst. I've been there, done that. I do not recommend it. So always try to pack at least 1 week before your trip. Then you have everything ready. And also, that way you don't have to start washing the stuff you want to take a few days before. No, start the week before, have everything washed and ready to go, even the clothes that you're going to use in transit. But be really firm on what you have included in your checklist so that you don't change your mind about stuff. I have more really good tips that I will give you in another video. If you need a stroller for your trip, I recommend that you choose one that is lightweight, that you can fold really small, and that they let you carry it inside the airplane. I made a video on the best travel strollers, so check it out. You can find it right here, and I will also place a link in the description. I don't recommend taking your big stroller if you're traveling by plane. If you're traveling by car, that's okay. But if you're traveling by airplane, do not take a big stroller, even if you don't have to pay to take it on the airplane, and even if you are planning on checking it in at the gate. The problem is that sometimes when you check in your stroller at the gate, when the plane arrives at the next connection, you have to wait for it to be delivered to you. And this is inconvenient for many reasons. A, you don't want to be standing there waiting with your children. They will be tired and anxious and want to keep going. And you too. B, what if it gets damaged when it gets set to the bottom of the plane? then you won't be able to use the stroller, and that will be a major problem. C, the stroller could get lost. And sometimes they don't even give it to you upon arrival. They send it to luggage pickup. That happened to me once, and it was a nightmare. So after that, I never took a stroller that I had to check in at the gate. I started using carry-on strollers. Another option would be to check in your stroller with the rest of your luggage and just bring a car seat. But remember, you would have to have a seat for your child. Your child would not travel free. Your child is under 2 years old, like they do usually when they're on your lap. But you might not want to be lugging around a big car seat. So choose a lightweight car seat and make sure that it is TSA approved and approved by the airline. Because some people have been rejected and told that the car seat cannot come on the plane. So always double check with your airline. And you will probably want a little trolley with wheels so that you can lug around your car seat. It's actually a really nice solution because you won't need your stroller. That one will travel on the belly of the plane. A car seat with wheels can take the place of the stroller while you're in the airport. There's also some interesting suitcases where your toddler can sit in it and it has wheels and you can just pull them around. Those seem like a lot of fun. I'll place a link to one in the description. But I haven't tried these. I always use strollers with my children, but when I saw these, I thought, that's kind of cool. The only problem I see with those is that if your child still naps, they won't be able to nap on that. Unfortunately, most double strollers will have to be checked in at the gate. Next one, I'm place a link to this stroller in the description. It is the Baby Zen Yo-Yo 2 with the Connect. I made a video where I talk about this stroller. You can check it out. It is right here or in the description. This stroller doesn't need to be checked in because it folds really small and it turns into a double stroller. You can connect 2 strollers to make a double stroller. So when you're bored in the plane, you can just fold both strollers and put them in the overhead bin. Also, if you're traveling somewhere where you're planning on renting a car, sometimes you ask the car rental company to add a car seat for you, but if not, you will have to bring your own car seat. Once, we traveled to Tampa, Florida, and upon arrival, we discovered that we couldn't take a cab to the hotel because we did not have a car seat for our child, and we had to pay extra to an Uber to send a car that had a car seat. But we were stuck in the airport for about an hour while we tried to locate a car that had a car seat for us. Believe me, I'll never make that mistake again. So wherever you're traveling, bring a car seat unless you know that you already have a car seat in the destination. When I go to Mexico, which I go there often, I know I already have car seats in the car that I'm going to be using over there. That way, I don't have to travel with the car seat that I have in the US on an airplane. The less you carry, the better, especially when you're traveling solo. You're all packed now, but now you have to determine how you're going to dress for when you're in transit. In another video, I'm going to give you suggestions on how you should dress and how your children should be dressed for when you're in transit. You have all this figured out and it's 1 week before your trip. So I recommend you do the following things at this time. If you're taking their iPads, preload any videos that they will need for entertainment. That way their iPads are prepared for them, and take into account that sometimes during your trip you will not have Wi-Fi. Having them preloaded and downloaded in their iPad will make it possible for your child to watch videos and be entertained on the iPad, even without Wi-Fi. And if you're using your phone to provide Wi-Fi for their iPad, remember that when you are traveling internationally, your phone might not have internet, and even if it does, sometimes it's limited. When I travel to Mexico, my phone does not have internet that is as good as the one I have when I'm here in the US. It's limited to 5 gigabytes, and believe it or not, that goes in a flash. It doesn't last at all, and then it becomes really expensive to continue having high-speed internet. They tell you at Verizon and other companies that after you're done with those 5 gigabytes, you will continue to have internet, but the speed will be reduced. Well, they're not kidding. Like, it's reduced to such a slow, ridiculously slow internet that is going to be worthless. Your children will not be able to watch videos or do anything on their phones. Even the GPS for Google Maps stops working properly. So I recommend that you just preload everything and save that internet on your phone for emergencies. If you're going to go on a road trip, I recommend that you get window shades, the ones you put on the windows of the back of your car, so that when your kid is sleeping, the sun doesn't get in his or her face. Also, don't forget to notify the credit companies that you will be traveling so that your cards continue to work properly during your trip. And try to get some cash in the currency of your destination so that upon arrival, you have at least a little bit of backup emergency money for your trip. The night before you head out on your trip, whether it's a road trip or a flight, I recommend you do the following. First of all, charge all iPads and phones, but don't forget to grab the chargers in the morning when you're about to leave. Fill the tank of your car with gasoline if you're going on a road trip. Set out your travel day clothes so that they're ready to go. You just wake up and put them on. Or in my case, I take a shower before my trip. I like to wake up fresh and feel fresh during the whole trip and then put on those clothes. If you do not suffer from constipation, have a banana and give your kids a banana too. This is a little trick I used to do so that they wouldn't want to go poo on the plane or on the road trip. Banana actually makes you a teeny bit backed up, not a lot. But if you have constipation issues, do avoid it because it will really clog you up. Also, try to eat normal the night before. You don't want to have tummy issues during your trip. And eat really light. Avoid experimenting with food and having really large dinners the night before your trip. And absolutely limit your salt intake because the salt will make your body bloat. You absolutely don't want to feel bloated during your trip, especially if you're going on a flight. If you want to really look pretty and not have to worry about these things during your trip, I recommend that you do your nails, put on eyelashes if you're wearing fake eyelashes, shave your legs, all your beauty routine one night before. Don't do it in the morning off because if that same day you arrive and want to hit the beach, your skin will be irritated. Give your skin at least one night of rest before getting suntan. Something I do so that I'm okay during my trip. If my nails get messed up, I just use press-on nails. It's a super quick fix that you can do during the trip without having to spend 45 minutes in a salon. Finally, prepare your purse. That one I usually tend to do the morning off, but it's better if you do it one night before. Have your purse ready. Usually our purses are a mess, so it's good to have it completely in order with the things that you need for the trip. And only carry in your purse the things that you need to have like really handy. Don't bring your whole makeup bag in it. Just bring your lipstick, your powder, your blush, and moisturizer if your skin tends to be dry, maybe a refresher spray, sanitizer, and don't bring anything that is liquid and large. Don't forget to put in your airplane tickets, your documents, etc. The day has come. It is travel day, and you are about to check in. These are my recommendations for checking in at the airport if you're traveling by airplane. Always arrive early. In major cities, they will ask you to arrive up to 3 hours early. It may sound ridiculous, but sometimes it is absolutely necessary. When I travel from Mexico City to the US, I know that it does have to be 3 hours. The lines sometimes are crazy to check in. If you will have a baby on your lap, definitely arrive earlier because sometimes at the counter they take a long time to register your baby's ticket and to give you the boarding pass for your baby on your lap. That happened to me every single time. Where I live, I usually only have to arrive 1 hour early because it's a really small town. But even then, I would have to arrive half an hour extra early so that my baby could get checked in and I would get the boarding pass for him or her. Remember that most of the things that are for babies check-in free. If you're carrying a play yard or a stroller or a car seat and you're going to check them in with your luggage, They usually are checked in free, but check with your airline. Some airlines allow you to bring a diaper bag for free, and it won't count as a carry-on. When you receive your boarding passes, make sure that you have been seated with your children. I recommend that you make that request at the moment that you're checking in before they even assign seat. If you can choose your seats because you made the reservation online, that is great. But that is not always the case. I've had the airline assign me seats all over the plane when I've traveled solo with my 2 kids. I was literally assigned a seat in front, my other child in the back, and my daughter in the middle, which was absolutely ridiculous because they were 4 and 6. I'm not going to sit down that far away from my children. They would be terrified. And I told the airline and they fixed it. But it doesn't happen to me once. It's happened multiple times. And most of the times the airline fixes, but sometimes they won't. In that case, don't freak out. You will have to rely on the goodness of other people. And it's never failed me. I usually board the plane and then ask the people if I can switch spots. Many people will be kind enough because they understand that you cannot travel on an airplane far away from your children. Once, even a couple sat in different seats just to accommodate us, and I am forever grateful. Even if you have e-tickets, like most people do, I recommend that you also have a printed copy of your boarding pass. Many people don't carry a printed boarding pass anymore nowadays because you can just scan the boarding pass in your iPhone or your phone with a QR code. But I recommend that you do ask for a printed version of your boarding pass, even if you're using your phone, because what if your phone battery dies? Then how do you board the plane? Also, if you are traveling for many hours, your phone might die and then you won't have your boarding pass for the next connection. And what if something happens to your phone? What if it gets wet or you lose it during transit? I know that's a disaster, but it's always good to be prepared, especially when you're making connections. So it's always good to have a paper backup. You're all checked in now and it's time to board. And here's a dilemma. Should you board first with your children or should you board last? That depends mostly on preference, but also on the age of your children. When I was traveling with an infant, I preferred to board first because it gave me the extra time that I needed to get accommodated in my seats, to fold the stroller, to put it in the overhead bin or under the seat, and to just start taking care of my baby. But with toddlers and older children, it is best to board last because you don't want them jumping all over the plane. Sometimes you will be sitting there for 30 minutes or more before takeoff, and kids get really antsy. But if you are bringing a lot of carry-on items, you might want to board first because what if the overhead bin fills and then they will send all your things to the belly of the plane? So I guess boarding first or boarding last depends on your circumstances. I recommend that you do not place anything that you need handy in the overhead bin. All of us know how annoying it is when one of the passengers stands up all the time to grab stuff from the overhead bin. It is very annoying, and it will be very stressful if you're that person. So place whatever you won't need handy in the overhead bin. Everything else you should keep under the seat, and that includes diapers, your baby bottles, snacks, toys, iPads, and anything that you will need to be pulling out pretty often. I recommend that you plan on a bathroom or diaper changing schedule. When I traveled with my children, I would always do the following. I would change my baby's diaper before boarding. Sometimes in the plane, believe it or not, the plane has a diaper changer. And I usually didn't have to change a diaper while I was on the plane unless it was a long flight, like more than 4 hours or 3-hour flight. Then I would change the diaper upon arrival, again, before boarding if there was a connection, and rinse and repeat. So use every single opportunity that you have to change your child's diaper. And the same goes for going to the bathroom. When my toddlers were potty trained, I would take them to the bathroom before boarding, during the flight, only in very long flights, then immediately upon arrival, then before boarding, the next connection, and then again upon arrival before driving any cab to the hotel or wherever we were going. When you're on road trips, The same applies. You should stop at gas stations and take them to go to the bathroom as often as possible, and always make them go to the bathroom before starting your trip. Most airports nowadays have family restrooms, and those are amazing. I love using the family restrooms because you can go with all your kids and even your husband and just do your routine there. If they're not available, sometimes there's breastfeeding areas that also have a bathroom, or even some handicapped bathrooms are available with a diaper changer. Unfortunately, many men's bathrooms don't have a diaper changer, which is annoying, so keep that in mind. To avoid any earaches for your children, I recommend that you breastfeed on takeoff and before landing, or during landing if they let you. Some airlines won't allow this. In this case, you can use a pacifier or a sippy cup, and also consult your pediatrician, but sometimes giving your child one dose of ibuprofen before takeoff will do the trick. Usually it's 30 minutes or 20 minutes before takeoff, but please check with your pediatrician if you can do this, and be careful with the dose. It has to be the correct dose, so please consult your pediatrician. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory, so it helps to prevent the earache. Also, if your child has a cold, it might be really painful for him or her to travel, and that's where the ibuprofen really comes in. But like I said, don't use ibuprofen blindly. Make sure that your child is not allergic to ibuprofen. Check with your pediatrician the correct dose. Just don't do this blindly. And if your child knows how to use gum, chewing gum during takeoff and during landing also helps relieve any ear pain. Don't be afraid to breastfeed. If you're breastfeeding, it is better to breastfeed on an airplane than to deal with formula and bottles. With my first child, I was really shy and I didn't want to breastfeed during transit, so I took some formula bottles and I wasn't used to that. It was quite the nightmare. In the end, I ended up giving up because I ran out of clean bottles and I didn't know what to do. By the way, I recommend bringing these fabulous travel bags for sterilizing bottles anywhere. All you need is water and a microwave, but I didn't have any of that. And my son was hungry, so I just ended up breastfeeding. It was like, oh my gosh, my son needs to eat. I'm sorry, I'm going to breastfeed. And I did. And guess what? Nobody bothered me. The flight assistants didn't say anything. I just breastfed my son and it was the best. So after that, all my shyness went out the window and I just breastfed my children during all flights, and it was the best thing ever. So don't be afraid to breastfeed. It'll save you so much trouble. If the airline tells you that you can't breastfeed during takeoff or during landing, which unfortunately some airlines might do that, you will have to keep your child upright and you can pat your child on the back and give them a pacifier, and that will help relieve a lot of the discomfort. But don't forget to put your pacifier on a leash so that it won't fall on the floor. And the other alternative would be to feed a baby bottle of formula upright. That also helps relieve earaches. During your trip, when you're in transit, when it comes to food and drink, don't experiment. This is not the moment to try new foods and be creative. Do everything that's tried and true that won't affect your tummy. You do not want to have tummy issues during transit, nor your children. Always eat when they bring you food because you don't want to be starving. If you like to fall asleep while you're in the flight, which in my case I do, just put down your tray and they will know that you want food and they'll just leave it there. And try not to drink too many liquids so that you won't have to use the bathroom a lot, but stay hydrated. Remember, if you're thirsty, have something to drink, have water, but don't overdo it. Wow, this has been a very long video, but we're in the last section, which is my recommendations of what to do upon arrival and in your destination. When your airplane arrives and you are picking up your luggage, get a cart or trolley at the airport. Usually most airports will give it to you for free, but some airports will charge you for it. So it is good to have some change handy. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help from the airport staff, but be safe. Don't trust blindly on any stranger. Keep your kids close at all times. Keep them always within view. And just like you will need change for the airport trolleys, you will also want some money for tips. And you might need money for the parking lots of the places that you visit. Once you're back to your hotel, and to just rest and chill for the first 2 days. Being in transit is very stressful and you will be tired, jet lag, etc. I usually plan my trip in a way that the first day or 2 days, I will only rest. Don't hop into a tour right away or into any strenuous activities. Just relax, enjoy the pool, take it easy the first day or two. Your children could use that time to unwind and to nap and to recover from the trip. Any important documents that you would be devastated to lose, just leave them in the hotel and try to choose a hotel that has a safe so you can put them there. And don't carry all your money with you. Try to leave most of it in the safe. Some people say that as a tourist, you should carry your passport with you at all times. I guess it depends on the regulations of the place that you are visiting. What I recommend is just carry 2 IDs. The most important one, which is a passport you might want to keep in the safe, and your driver's license on you the rest of the time. So carry a less important ID with you. Just make sure that it's an official ID. In the hotel, you can use hangers to keep the curtains closed if you want the room to be dark. Also, if you didn't bring a humidifier, you can use a wet towel and put it near the air vent. Just make sure you don't put it on top of the air conditioning unit because you could cause a fire or get electrocuted. Just put it near, and that way the air won't be as dry and you will be more comfortable. When you're on the beach, it's a good idea to roll your money inside a diaper and then roll it in the towel that you're using. Nobody's going to want to steal a diaper, but also don't leave that diaper just like that. When in sight, cover it with a towel or something, because if somebody's cleaning the trash in the beach, they will pick it up and take it. And then you would have lost your keys, your money, your wallet, your cell phone, whatever you had inside that diaper. You don't want that. So even though many people on YouTube are recommending just put your valuables in the diaper so nobody steals it, be careful. What if somebody's cleaning the beach? They will put it in the trash. And to carry all your stuff at the beach, don't forget to bring a porous bag, a bag that has holes in it so that all the sand falls out and all your objects won't be carrying around a bunch of sand all the time. I always carry a special beach bag which has holes in it and looks real pretty. In that, I carry my children's toys, towel, and everything that I will need. Do you have any extra recommendations that I missed? Let me know by placing it in the comments. I hope this guide has been valuable to you. It stems from all the experience I have of traveling with my parents and by myself and my children, mostly by airplane, but also during road trips. If you have any questions, let me know. Write it in the comments. I am happy to answer and to help. And don't forget to check my next video on the best travel strollers.